Congratulations on your purchase of the Surgiden Theramax dental system. This is the world's first integrated mobile dental surgical table. The purpose of this video is to explain its setup before use and to give you some maintenance tips. On unpacking your table, what you'll notice is that the basin and the grill are totally detachable, but within the basin are the instructions for maintenance of the compressor and the oil that you will need to fill before you turn the compressor on. In addition, you'll find the handpieces, low speed and high speed, that you will assemble for the dental console. So after taking the bottle out of its plastic container, what you want to do is remove the cap on the oil and place the spout firmly in place. And then what you will do is you'll reshape the tip with a scissor in order to get a greater oil flow so you can fill the tank appropriately. So it's cut at a diagonal, which will allow you a better placement of the oil. When accessing the compressor motor, looking at the table from the front, it's on the right side. You open the door, which gives you better visualization of all of the components within. The compressor has the motor in the front, which is this gray tank, and in the back, as you can see, is the white air tank itself. On the top is a hexagonal screw that's labeled oil, where you'll be placing 3/4 of the bottle in the top and slowly filling, which you'll then monitor with this glass eye at the bottom, where on the side you can see it should only be filled 50%. So unscrewing the top bolt, you'll then place the oil slowly within the top, and then when done, you will only hand tighten the nut. Never use a wrench. After filling the compressor with the necessary oil, the next step is to fill the distilled bottles on the rear of the table. What we see in this console is a gauge that when the compressor is off, reads 0, but when the compressor will be turned on, will read 4. In addition, we have 2 sets of switches. The top switch controls the solution and the water. The bottom switch controls the liquid and air. As the label reads, never switch the bottom over to air, but keep it on liquid. As far as the top coolant is concerned, solution will be distilled water in both bottles. The next step is to carefully unscrew the bottle by placing a finger in the center of the bottle and turning it counterclockwise and releasing it from the cap underneath the console. Once you have done this, you'll fill this with distilled water and then carefully replace the bottle back into the cap that you can feel under the console, keeping your finger centric, and then quickly tightening the bottle. As mentioned, since both bottles will contain distilled water, there's going to be no difference between solution or water, and when one bottle is filled or totally used, you'll switch the switch to the other, which will activate it and allow water to flow to the handpieces. So after we've filled the distilled water bottles, the next step is to unpack your handpieces. These, as previously mentioned, are underneath the grill in the basin. In this particular model, we are using a dual fiber optic high-speed handpiece. For purposes of clarification, it's better to put a blue marking on these handpieces which indicate water. That means water cools these handpieces, and they have to be put on the dental console in a particular order. If you notice this dental console, the difference between the high speed and the low speed socket is that the high speed fiber optic is much longer. That is for both the fiber optic component and the water. So after unpacking it, what you'll do is you'll place the drill thoroughly to the bottom, and then you'll tighten the ring onto the drill and then place it back in its holder. You'll do the same if you have a dual high speed, and that will allow water coolant and the fiber optic source to be given specifically to the handpiece. After which, what you'll do is your low speed will also have different configurations. You'll have a motor, and then you'll have a cone that snaps onto the motor at the top. This will be placed in the low speed tubing and tightened down. So what we have in this configuration is two high-speed fiber optic handpieces and a low-speed motor and reduction gear. In addition, we have an air-water syringe, which when you press both buttons of this syringe, you'll get a fine mist spray. If you press the left side, you'll get nothing but air, and if you place pressure on the right button, you'll get nothing but water. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place on the low speed the Profi angle, which is disposable, and when you place it on that, what you'll notice is there's a ring at the bottom that needs to be rotated to open up the chuck. Once that chuck is open, then the plastic disposable can slide down, and then what you do is you release the chuck and allows it to tighten. As far as the high speeds are concerned, since these are push button high speeds, before running the high speed, you need to put a burr in its place by pressing the button with the tip of your finger, with placing the drill in there, releasing the button, and then just doing a tug back to make sure that the drill bit is properly fastened. And we do the same with the second high speed as well. To explain further the dental console, we have on the front labeled 1, 2, and 3. These will allow you to regulate the airflow to the handpieces. So 3 refers to the low speed, 1 and 2 in this configuration, the high speed. When the system is turned on, what you'll notice is when you depress the pedal, this will read and go from 0 to 40. Also in this configuration, the master switch should be pressed forward into the on position. The water switch will be turned to the left into the on position, and the flow of the water to the handpieces will be regulated by this toggle valve. So now that we have properly filled the compressor with oil and the water bottles with distilled water, we have placed the handpieces appropriately in the dental console. We are ready to turn on the system. As you'll notice, looking at the table from the left, there is a console of 2 switches and 3 sockets. The left switch controls all systems of power. The right switch, labeled in blue, solely turns on the compressor. So in other words, you can run the table as a surgical table with all the outlets functioning and the lift mechanism without turning on the compressor. But when we turn the compressor on, what you'll notice is that with the silent air compressor, the sound is as weak as a refrigerator motor. As the tank fills and reaches its maximum level, the motor of the compressor will shut off. You'll hear a click, and that will allow you to go ahead with your dental procedures. So after the compressor has been running, we're ready to test the individual high speeds with the drill burrs in place. Pressing or depressing the pedal to its maximum will allow the drill to start turning, the water spray to begin, and as well the fiber optic to actually show. We can regulate the amount of water again by using this toggle switch to release the water to a very fine spray. Nothing more than a fine spray is necessary to give appropriate coolant to the surgical site. The fiber optic will shut itself off when replaced in the socket in a few seconds. The light will dim and shut off. The low speed with the Profi angle will be tested. And again, you can see the gauge registering the amount of pressure. The compressor will go on and off depending on how much air is in the tank. The next step that we need to follow is to make sure that the gauges underneath in the compressor room is accurate. So opening then the housing for the compressor, we see 3 gauges. The gauge closest to the dental console will show the amount of pressure going to the handpieces. The gauge in the center has 2 different numbers that are color-coded. On the inside circle, the gauge should read between 110 and 120. The third gauge, coming off of the compressor, feeding into the dental console, will, on the red scale, read between 70 and 80. If they're not, this can be regulated to the appropriate amount of pressure by adjusting this little knob on the top and pressing it in, and then adjusting the amount of air coming to the dental console. So to repeat, in order to change the pressure, you can open the door on the opposite side of the compressor housing, pull up on this little black knob, and when you turn it clockwise, it will adjust the pressure going to the dental console closer to 80 if you don't have accurate amounts of pressure. But when you're done, what you do is you just press down this little knob and it clicks, and that allows you then to lock it into place. So the last gauge, after checking the compressor gauges that we need to control, is the gauge on the distilled water coolant system. So looking at it from the back, we see the arrow pointing between 3 and 4, and that tells us that the bottles are being pressurized by the compressor and that the system will supply adequate coolant to the handpieces. So now that you've used the dental unit during the day, what you want to do is you want to shut the compressor off. You want to open the door on the left when you face it. And what you'll do is you'll drain the filters. One is a oil coalescing filter. The other is a air from any condensate by opening this little knob on the bottom and then pressing up with a towel on the bottom and releasing any air that's in either of them. After which, you'll just close the knob, and then what we're going to do is we'll drain the tank from the spigot located between the water bottles on the table. Again, you'll put a little towel underneath and you'll open the knob, and what you'll notice is as the pressure in the tank drops, the gauge will drop back down to 0. You can do it quicker. And once that goes back to 0, what you'll do as a matter of next day preparation, you'll fill both bottles with distilled water and then tighten them, and you're ready to go into surgery the next day.